Question for you. If you could play one golf course for the rest of your retirement, which one would you choose? One of the best parts about golf is there are so many amazing courses to play in the United States and around the world. And the best part about being work optional or ultimately retiring is having the time to play those courses that you've always dreamed of playing. Today, I'm going to reveal my top 20 courses with a few stories to go along with it in hopes to provide a little bit of inspiration as you plan for your dream retirement. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining another episode of the Planning for Retirement podcast. My name is Kevin Lau. I am your host, and I'm also the owner and lead financial planner at Imagine Financial Security. We help individuals over 50 who have at least $1 million maximize their retirement spending, minimize their lifetime tax bill, and worry less about the financial markets. If that describes you, make sure to follow our podcast and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We put out weekly retirement planning content specifically designed to you, who I like to call PFR Nation. And if you're interested in learning more about working with us one-on-one, visit our website at www.imaginefinancialsecurity.com, or you could start with the retirement readiness questionnaire linked in the description of this episode. We look forward to learning more about you and how we can help in your retirement planning journey. First and foremost, I just want to thank my beautiful bride, Jessica, for this amazing idea. Listen, you may not be a big golfer, and this episode may not be for you specifically, but maybe you have a friend, a family member, or a spouse who is a big golfer or has a passion for the game of golf, and you could take some of the nuggets that I'm going to share today, and who knows, maybe surprise them with a little stay and play package for their next birthday. And of course, if you are a big golfer, you're absolutely going to want to tune in as we go on this journey together. So let's do this. So first and foremost, I want to share a little bit about my golfing journey because, I think this is important for this episode, okay? Just to kind of introduce my background to the game of golf. I did not grow up in a country club. I did not grow up playing golf at all, okay? I grew up in a middle-class family. My dad worked an IT job. My mom was a homemaker for most of my childhood and then became a preschool teacher. And, playing club soccer and living in the DC area was an expensive feat. My dad, as he's tried to support our family, that was a stretch in and of itself. So trying to adopt the game of golf was just not really in the cards. But of course, the 97 Masters happened. Tiger Woods won by 1 million strokes at the age of 21. And it kind of changed everything. A lot of my friends started to kind of gain a little interest in golf, and he just made it look cool. And so, I decided to pick up some clubs, took a couple of lessons, and honestly kind of fell in love with the game at that point in time. But I just knew, I could not play both golf and soccer. I was doing travel soccer. We had literally 3 seasons per year. We did a spring season, a fall season, and then we even did a winter indoor season. And so our team was very competitive. We did a lot of traveling for tournaments and things like that. So I had to choose one. And obviously I chose soccer because golf just wasn't really cool in my eyes, when I was a 12-year-old kid. But, in high school, I kind of stayed in touch with the game a little bit. I worked at a country club called International Country Club in Chantilly, Virginia. Just to earn a little bit extra side cash, as I was saving to buy my first car, as well as preparing for college. And then in college, I worked at 2 different country clubs to help pay for some of my living expenses. And of course, getting free unlimited golf, because that's when I really started to get into golf, was in college. And my buddy, Chris Ambrose, who I met freshman year of college, really got me into the game and kind of like instilled the passion of the game that I have today. He was the number 1 player in his high school team. And he sort of taught me, he really gave me my first real series of lessons on the golf course. And that's when I really fell in love with the game. I was just playing a ton of golf in college. And, I say all this because I'm not going to have this like laundry list of some of the top courses in the US from like a prestige standpoint. But I feel like, my golf adventures are still ahead of me. Like my best golf adventures are still ahead of me. But at the same time, I feel like I've compiled a decent little list here. Okay. And so this is my list of courses that I've personally played and that I've loved. Okay. And listen, everyone has their own taste for different golf courses. There's a reason why they say there are horses for courses. There are different horses for different courses. Okay. And so some of the courses that I'm going to talk about today, some of you absolutely have heard of them. Some of them you probably have not heard of. Okay. And some are private, but most are public. And again, my hope is to give you some little bit of inspiration here to try a few of these courses as you're pursuing your goal of financial independence and ultimately retirement. Okay. Because after all, when we talk about purpose in retirement, for those golf lovers out there, what better purpose is there than looking forward to playing some of these amazing golf courses that we have in the US and even overseas, okay? And soaking in the beautiful scenes, at these pieces of property. So, again, I know for me, prepping for this episode, it gave me a ton of inspiration and sort of made me realize like, wow, there are so many golf courses that I want to play, truthfully, just here in the US that look amazing. And I need to free up my time to go out and try some of these. Okay. I've been, so deep in the trenches, starting my business, raising young kids. I'm not going to say I'm going to do multiple golf trips a year. Okay. I've done probably one golf trip over the last 3 years, but plan to do one, maybe one big one per year. But that doesn't mean I can't travel to some of these local ones that are driving distance. And again, for you all that are approaching retirement or have recently retired, you should have more time on your hands. Okay. Again, hopefully this episode provides you a little bit of inspiration as I share some of these with you. And I'd love to hear from you all along the way. Tell me, what courses have you played? Okay. That I'm going to talk about, and which of those courses are you a big fan of? Which of those courses that you maybe stay away from? And then certainly share with me some of the courses that I need to get out and play. Okay. I would love recommendations from my listeners. PFR Nation would love to hear those from you all. So please comment on the YouTube video or even on the Spotify episode, or even drop me an email, kevin@imaginefinancialsecurity.com. If you don't want to comment, drop me an email. Would love to hear your take on these as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break these down into segments. Okay. I thought about doing like my top 20 and going down from 20 to 1, but instead what I wanted to do is I wanted to break down into different tiers. Okay. And so there are 4 different tiers that we came up with. Number 1 is hidden gems. Number 2 is great value and playability. Number 3 is private but must play. And then number 4, of course, the bucket list courses. All right. So those are the 4 tiers of courses that we're going to break down. We're going to start, and in no particular order, we're going to start with the value and playability list. Okay. So the first one I wanted to talk about was Old Hickory Golf Club in Woodbridge, Virginia. All right. So this course was in my backyard growing up in the DC area. And truthfully, I didn't even discover this course until my college days coming home from summer, because that's when I really took up the game of golf, and I caught the golf bug in college. So we really started playing a lot of this in college and as well as post college. And it's just a fun, challenging layout. Okay. Some of you may have heard of Raspberry Falls in Northern Virginia, if you're familiar with the courses up there. This is actually the sister course of Raspberry Falls. And I truthfully like it a little bit more. Again, there are different courses for different horses, and I prefer this one over Raspberry Falls. But there's bunkers on every hole, some elevation changes. It's kind of wide open, which is probably why I like it a little bit. But it's not an easy track. Okay. It's actually a pretty difficult track. They have pretty fast greens. The slope rating is 135 from the whites. All right. And then the total distance is about 5980 from the whites. Okay. I think from the backs, it's closer to 7,000. But number 18 is super cool. It's a par 5 that's 630 yards from the back tees. It's a really cool 3-shot hole for, hitting your tee shot from a huge elevation change. So I just think it's a really cool track. And then they've got a 19th hole, little par 3 that you hit off mats, just in case the match is tied on 18, which I've had several of those tied on 18, going into the 19th hole. But I looked online just for fun, because it's been probably 8 or 9 years since I've played this course. And I looked online, and you can actually book a round for under $100 on a weekend. Okay. In the peak, and in the off peak, you can go in the 50s and 60s. So again, really good value. And I think for me, I just wanted to start with this one right off the back, because it is a nostalgic course for me. As I grew up in the Northern Virginia area, it's one of the best courses, in my opinion, in Northern Virginia. And I think also, I've had some good rounds there. I actually fired my career low at the time of a 74, probably back in 2011-ish. Again, that's when I was actually playing good golf. Okay. Some of these scores I'm going to share, that's when I was actually playing some good golf. I don't have these scores in me right now, but hopefully soon enough, as I get back and start practicing a little bit. All right. Number 2 on the value list and playability list is the Dormy Club in North Carolina in the Pinehurst area. We played this absolute beauty on a golf trip several years ago. It's a Core and Crenshaw design, again, in the Pinehurst area. Wide open fairways, natural sand bunkers all over the place, just fast conditions, beautiful greens, perfect conditions. And it's just a beautiful setting. It's like a little hidden gem in the sandhills of the Carolinas. And it's definitely out in the middle of nowhere. So it's not really going to be one of those you drive and play once. It's probably going to be part of some sort of golf trip that you do. We did a little golf trip to Southern Pines, actually. We did a little package, a 3-course package. So this is one. And then alongside the number 3 course on this list, which is Pine Needles in North Carolina. Now, this one is probably my favorite. It was hard for me to choose between Dormy Club and Pine Needles in that area. Again, I haven't played the Pinehurst courses, so I can't really speak to those. And I know those are amazing. But Pine Needles is a solid track. It's a Donald Ross design. Hosted multiple women's US Opens, I should say. And it's just like an old school course, just tree lined, elevation changes in the rolling hills of the Carolinas. amazing large Georgia pines all over the place with pine straw everywhere. So even if you miss it out in the trees, you can hit some crazy escape shots out of the pine straw, which I love. That was the one thing I hated about Florida golf is like, you miss off the tee, which I do all the time. You miss off the tee like you're in marsh, okay, or you're in the water, okay. Whereas these courses in the Carolinas, it's you get these pine trees. Sure, those it's definitely a factor, but you can kind of hit a little punch shot. You can hit a little slice out of the trees or draw out of the trees and try to escape and try to make par. But it's a beautiful course. And again, I would say it's going to be like a golf package type of deal. The 3 that we did, it was Southern Pines, Pine Needles. Actually, I think we did 4. Southern Pines, Pine Needles, Mid Pines, which is right next door to it. And then we did the Dormy Club. So all of those tracks are great. Looked at my scorecard. I fired an 82 that day. So not too shabby. I don't really remember the round too well, which is a little odd for me because a lot of times I remember golf rounds. Okay. I can't remember what I ate for lunch yesterday, but like random shots that I hit in a golf round, I remember. Now, part of it was probably because it was a bachelor party that I went on, way back in the day. So that probably was a factor. But again, I fired an 82, not too shabby. Our number 4 on this list. I'm super excited to share this one. This one is Wittenbury Hills in Bloomfield, Connecticut, just outside of West Hartford. All right. And so this is actually one of my best buddies, Turner, his home course. Played it in 2020 during the pandemic. So it was an interesting time to go up to Connecticut because, again, we were living in Florida and the pandemic was basically over in the summer for Floridians. But in Connecticut, not so much. Very, very strict when it came to COVID policies. And when we decided, hey, we're going to make a road trip, he had just had his first daughter. We just had our first son. We're like, hey, let's all get together and have the kids meet. He told me to back my car, our minivan, back it into his driveway because he didn't want his neighbors to see our Florida tags. All right. Because if one of the neighbors saw someone from Florida was visiting, they would have like blackballed them from the neighborhood. So anyways, it was a really awkward time to be in Connecticut, but nonetheless, we made it work. And again, this is his home track. It's a public course, but you can join it as well. And I think it was Pete Dye's first design in New England. And anything Pete Dye for me, I love. Okay. Pete Dye, the designer of TPC Sawgrass, which, as you can see probably on video, I'm repping the TPC Sawgrass polo today, but $56 on a weekend. All right. I looked this up just last week, $56 on a weekend. I don't know if it's still kind of early golf season. Maybe it's still a little cold up there. But again, I remember it very reasonable in terms of the greens fees. And it's just, it is a beautiful course. Combination of tree-lined holes in wide open holes with some fescue-lined fairways. So it kind of has like the traditional classic tree-lined course mixed with some linksy style holes as well. Very walkable, so if you're into that, you can definitely walk it, and definitely, some challenging holes and some scoring holes. But I'll tell you, pretty cool round in this one because my buddy Turner and I, we had been doing some annual golf trips. Again, this was pre-kids on an annual basis. And so we were actually playing for the Castle Nation trophy, if you will. But 2020, that all kind of shut down. No one wanted to do a golf trip in 2020, but the two of us decided to get together and do a head-to-head match for the Castle Nation trophy. And we had a pretty epic match. I actually started out birdie, birdie, birdie on the first 3 holes. So I was 3 under through 3. And I think he actually made birdie on 1 and was like par. So he was 1 under after 3. So we were both feeling it that day. But I ended up firing a 75 that day. He fired a 77. So I took him down by 2, ended up taking home the Castle Nation trophy. So he was a little bit bitter about that because I went to his hometown and took him down. But one of my favorite golf courses that I've played, I haven't played any golf in New England outside of that course, but all of the reviews say number 1 course in Connecticut, one of the best courses to play in New England. And I believe that because it is an absolute hidden gem. So it's kind of that value list and hidden gem. Now this next one, love this course. Okay. So this was Sevierville Golf Club just outside, or actually in Sevierville, just outside of Gatlinburg, and actually went on a little weekend trip in a cabin with some friends on my 30th birthday. And we stayed in a cabin in the Smokies, actually in a town called Cobley Knob, which I believe was actually destroyed by the wildfires a few years ago, which is awful. But this golf course, Sevierville Golf Club, has 2 18s. And it is just such a surprising little hidden gem. Again, it's kind of like a combination of hidden gem and value play, but it's just like wide open fairways, pretty tricky greens, great conditions, but just amazing Smoky Mountain type of scenery. It's a fun layout. It's challenging enough, to sort of whet your appetite if you like that type of golf. But for me, I'm a mountain golf kind of guy. I love the undulation. I love the views of the mountains, even in the valley. It's in the valley, so you're surrounded by the Smokies. but you still have that significant undulation and the elevation changes that you want in a mountain course. And one of my favorite tracks I've played. I don't know if it was just because of the vibe that weekend, turning 30. One of my best buddies was there. We were playing golf. We played golf 2 days at this course, and it was just, such a gem, such a gem. Speaking of gems, why don't we talk about my hidden gems? All right. Now, some of these may not be hidden gems to you, but I put them on this list. But this first one, it used to be called World Woods. I think it's now called something like Cabot Citrus Farms. Okay. And so they had 2 courses at the time. And the one I played was Rolling Oaks. I can't remember what the other one was called, but this one it's in Brooksville, Florida. It's just about 40 minutes or so north of Tampa. And it's a Tom Fazio design, just beautiful oak trees, like your classic, like old Florida look. But it's like weird because this area in Florida has significant elevation changes, which is probably why I loved it so much. Like you don't really feel like you're in Florida, but you've got that like the oak trees with the Spanish moss, and it's got wide open fairways, but the greens are like, they're just perfect greens. And it's just beautiful bunkering all over the place. And again, they have 2 18s. I did not play the other 18-hole course, but I looked at the website and Cabot Farms, it looks like they've got it. This looks like a little stay and play destination in my mind. Okay. They've got 2 18-hole courses and an 11-hole par 3 course, which I believe has night golf. Okay. I saw there was some lights everywhere. So in my opinion, this is like a stay and play destination where you've got to go for a few nights and go with some friends and just enjoy the property. It's a beautiful piece of land. And if you remember Tiger Woods getting into his hot water back in 2009 with his marriage, word on the street is he kind of hunkered down in World Woods to sort of get away from his home club. And that's kind of where he played and practiced for a while before things sort of settled down on the home front. But anyways, it just kind of shows you like the caliber golf course that it is, but it wasn't that expensive. I remember we paid somewhere in the 70-ish range at the time. It's probably a little more just because of all the renovations they've done. And again, they've got like stay and play packages. They built some cabins on site. I remember when I went, and this was probably 2016, they were just in talks with the new ownership with building the cabins and doing the stay and play. So now they've got it all. So again, I would definitely be looking at this as a golf trip. If you're in the Florida area, if you want to do a Florida destination, sure, you've got the Stream Song, which I'm a little bitter. Stream Song is not on my list, by the way, but it's definitely on my list of golf courses I want to go and play. But I'm a little bitter because April of 2020, we had Stream Song booked. We had Stream Song in the queue. And then, of course, the pandemic canceled that trip for us. So a little bit salty about that one. And then my twins were born, and then I just never play golf anymore, relatively speaking. But anyways, do not sleep on Cabot Citrus Farms. Solid track. All right, number 2 on this list of hidden gems is Oak Marsh in Amelia Island. All right, so this, again, Pete Dye design. You're going to see multiple Pete Dyes pop up here. So this one's in Amelia Island, and it's a tight course, okay? Tight fairways, but it's got amazing marsh views, salt marsh views, and it's just like tight greens, undulated greens, and it is just one of my favorite tracks in all of Northeast Florida. When I lived in Jacksonville, I try to play this course as much as possible. It's a little bit of a track from Jacksonville, probably 40, 45 minutes. Like if you're in the southern part of Jacksonville or even St. Augustine, it's probably closer to an hour. But again, if you are doing a destination trip, there's several good courses in Amelia Island. That's another destination I would definitely look at because you've got, of course, this one, the Oak Marsh course. They also have another course that they are redoing, I believe. And it used to be the Ocean course right there. And they were going to turn those into condos. But I think they've kind of redone that and actually brought the golf course back. That course actually has 4 or 5 holes that are right in the ocean, which is kind of rare for Florida, believe it or not, to have those ocean views. It's definitely one of those, places that like, okay, Amelia Island, you've got the 2 of those courses. You've got Amelia River. You've got Northampton. You've got the Omni or the Ritz-Carlton Hotel, which has an amazing golf course. So there are several courses, Longleaf. There are several courses up there that you can go and do a little stay and play and try them all. And this one actually hosted a big break back in the early 2010s, which again, championship caliber style course, not easy and definitely very, very breezy. When those marsh winds come in, it plays long. Okay. And so it's not one of those courses you're like, hey, I'm going to get my confidence back playing Oak Marsh. Not at all. I don't even know if I've broken 80 at this course. Maybe I touch 80, 81, but it is a tough track. All right. Next up on this list of hidden gems is Rum Point in Ocean City, Maryland. All right. This is probably one of my favorite courses that we played. We did a little Ocean City trip back pre-kids, and it's a coastal linksy style course that sits right on the Chesapeake Bay. It's a fun layout, very playable, but very challenging. It's still very challenging. And it's just, we had an epic golf trip here. We played this one. We played Lighthouse Sound. We played Man of War. I think those are, yeah. Man of War has 2 courses, Lighthouse Sound and then Rum Point. But I don't know, for whatever reason, Rum Point just, it really kind of like elevated to the number 1 on that list for me. And again, I don't know if it was because I was playing well. That probably has something to do with it. Okay. Because I was, when I'm playing well, usually you enjoy the course a little bit more than if you're not playing well. Because, Lighthouse Sound, at the time, everyone was hyping up Lighthouse Sound. They're like, oh, you're going to love this course. And I did like it. But for some reason, Rum Point for me was number 1. And on 18, I was sitting in the fairway. I needed a birdie to break 80. Okay. So I was sitting in the fairway and with a wedge in my hand, you'd think, okay, licking my chops. I hit it super thin, basically bladed one to the back of the green. I was like 50 feet away, drained the putt for birdie to break 80. So again, maybe that's why it made my list and not Lighthouse Sound. But anyways, Rum Point, solid track. And again, Ocean City, good destination for a little golf trip. So let's stay in the state of Maryland. All right. So we've got Whiskey Creek next on the list. And I don't even know how you pronounce this city, Yamsville or Iamsville. It's Ijamsville, but it's in the DC area, I would call it, probably a 30-minute or so drive from DC. And it's an Ernie Els design. It is just a pure little track. Okay. Wooded holes, open holes, elevation changes, unbelievable old structures that remained on the course. And it's got an amazing closing stretch. I remember I've only played the course once, but it's one of those, like if you live in the DC area, you've got to play Whiskey Creek. I remember going out there. We took a huge group of guys out there and we did a little Ryder Cup style match, and we just had a blast. And I just remember the course being so good. But I looked at the website recently. They do like a little demand, like I guess they're calling it dynamic pricing model, where based on the demand for certain tee times, that's how they're going to drive the actual greens fee. So I think this one might be a little bit higher in terms of cost, probably north of 120, which, with inflation, that seems to be kind of like a regular day out in the golf course, which for me back in the day, that would be like, oh no, $50, $60. That's what I want to play for golf. But this is 2025, not 2012. So it is what it is, but it's definitely a course I'd highly recommend if you're in that DC area. And there's some other ones in that area too, but Whiskey Creek for me is top of the line. All right. Let's talk about the next track here. This is called the Conservatory at Hammock Beach in Florida. All right. So this is just south of St. Augustine. I think it might be maybe just north of Palm Coast or basically Palm Coast. We'll call it Palm Coast. So Hammock Beach is a little resort and they've got 2 golf courses. They've got the Conservatory, which is a Tom Watson design. And then they've got the Ocean course. Okay. So the Conservatory, I think it's actually the longest course in the state of Florida. So for whatever that's worth. And then they've got the Ocean course, which actually has a couple of holes that are ocean view. I don't know, for whatever reason, I liked the Conservatory better, but it was a challenging course. But again, for whatever reason, some of these tougher courses, that's when I play a little better. And we went on 4th of July weekend back in 2017-ish. And oh man, I fired a 79 that day, was feeling pretty good. And again, they've got the resort, they've got the resort pool. So definitely could also be a little stay and play option. You can take your spouse, even if they don't enjoy golf, they can enjoy the spa and the pool and enjoy some mudslides at the swim up bar in the pool. So definitely a really good spot to go. I've got several friends, several clients that are now doing trips down to Hammock Beach. It seems to be kind of on the map now. And if you do that, you've got to play the Conservatory. Such a good course. All right, next one up here on Hidden Gems. Oof, one of my favorite courses. This is my only course I've played in Colorado, which I need to get out there and play some more golf. But Colorado, Fossil Trace. All right, and I think the city is Golden, Colorado, so just outside of Denver. So we did a little work training, went out back in my TIAA days. This was probably 2015-ish. And decided to play this one based on a recommendation from my good buddy who's from Colorado. And it's just one of the most unique courses that I've ever experienced. They've got legit dinosaur fossil footprints in these like little sort of cuts of desert rock, okay, that are like just amazing, that jet out in the fairways. And it is a spectacle, no question. And of course, you've got the elevation changes, you've got the mountain views. A little quirky, with some of the layouts with rocks coming into play because of that. But it's definitely an unforgettable type of layout. I'm a little bit bitter on this one because I played decent that day. But on number 10, it's a short par three. And I had a little 54-degree wedge in my hand. I hit a nice little fade in there with my 54. It was cutting at the pin, landed left of the pin, spun to the right, was literally tracking right at the hole, hits the flag stick and stays out about 2 inches. I was a little bitter about that. That should have been my second hole in one, but nonetheless tapped in for a little birdie, ended with an 85, decent round. But I remember throwing a bunch of shots away on the green. All right, next up on this list is Primland in Southern Virginia. I can't remember even what city this is in, but this is like a remote mountain retreat type of resort. All right. So again, it could be a great stay and play destination, even with the spouse. You can certainly go with friends, but definitely with the spouse. And if they're not into golf, they can do the resort and just enjoy like some of the hiking trails and they've got a nice spa there. But this course is like one of the most unforgettable courses in my lifetime. Okay. Just like the elevation changes there are unlike anything I've ever experienced. I mean, I think one of the holes was like 100 feet in the air you're hitting from, or 100 yards, I should say, in the air. Yeah, I remember this one hole that you're hitting down, just straight down from the tee box into the fairway. And just the elevation changes throughout the course. Pretty crazy. And it is a bucket list type of course, but I put it on the hidden gems list. And I think it is rated as one of the top public courses in Virginia. And it's also got a shooting club too, if you're into that. Again, there's a lot of things to do at the resort, but it's one of those courses that you've got to try. It is a memorable experience, no question. All right, now we're going to move on to the bucket listers here, okay? And we're going to kick things off with a course that is now right in my backyard in South Pittsburgh, Tennessee, and that would be Sweetens Cove. And for you golf lovers, you probably have heard of Sweetens Cove. It's the course that Andy Roddick and Peyton Manning came in and threw a bunch of money at, became owners of, and it is a beautiful design. It's a 9-hole course. Okay. So it's a 9-hole track. And these greens, it's like a combination of Augusta National and links style golf in Scotland. Okay. So like massive greens, but huge, crazy undulation, very fast. And so you've got to be creative with the shot making. And on the greens, you definitely have to be creative. And you're tucked in the valley with all the Tennessee mountains around you. So it's a beautiful setting. But it's very laid back. It's sort of like one of those things, like there's sort of like the new age golf. It's a 9-hole track, but there's 18 holes you play. Okay. So when you they sell these day passes. And so be prepared, by the way, when these day passes come out, they sell out instantly. So you need to be on the internet and just hit refresh when you're trying to buy these tickets. And that was a little frustrating because when we went, we actually did not get tickets initially. We got lucky. Because we did a little Chattanooga destination trip. And it ended up raining the morning of one of our rounds. So we actually did not play the course we were going to play and decided to reach out to Sweetens Cove. And a bunch of people had canceled. So we were able to get on. Very fortunate. But it's one of those tracks that you play the first 9, and there are actually 2 pin locations on each green because these greens are so huge, so massive. And so there are 2 pin locations on each green. And so after you play the first 9, you go back from the same tee boxes. Then you play the next the next pin location. So it's kind of like you're playing a different hole, and it does have that feel to a certain degree, but it's kind of that new age of golf in terms of like speed, laid back, music playing all over the place. They don't even have a clubhouse. Okay. It's a legit shack that you go in and you go check in, and the head, or I don't even know if you call him a head pro or like the manager of the clubhouse is in there, and you take a little shot of whiskey before you tee off on your first round. So it's kind of that type of vibe, that type of feel. And people come from all over the world to play Sweetens Cove. So it is definitely on the map. It's a bucket list course, but I would highly recommend somehow getting out there, somehow doing a trip. And if you do a Chattanooga trip, there are several courses in the area that I'll be talking about here in just a second. Okay. But one little hack though, I just learned about because we went to the clubhouse recently because I wanted to buy a hat there. And I also wanted to show my wife what this piece of property looked like because she had never been there. Of course, she doesn't care about golf. But the little hack is if you live in the area and you can drive to Sweetens Cove, or maybe you're just in town for a random reason, you can call the clubhouse, around 4:35 p.m. the day before you want to play and see if there are any cancellations. And they said oftentimes you can get out and you can kind of sneak out and get on somehow. So the greens fees, they're not inexpensive. I think you're probably going to be expecting about 175 or so plus for what they call a little day pass, but you can play as much as you want. So once you have the day pass, you've got your free reign for the entire day, and you can play as much golf as your heart desires. And I think they're in the middle of doing a huge renovation. I think they're going to add a par 3 course. They're going to do a shooting range. They're going to do like a little fishing area. So they're about to invest a lot of money into Sweetens Cove. So It's already on the map and it's about to get even crazier. So I'd recommend trying to get out there before the hype even elevates to the next level. All right, then let's stay in the Chattanooga area. Let's go to the Keep at Macklemore. All right, so this one is in Rising Fawn, Georgia, technically, but it's Lookout Mountain. Now, Tennessee, Georgia share a border, obviously, and like literally, you're on the border of North Georgia. So we'll call it Lookout Mountain, Georgia. And again, the city is Rising Fawn. But this course, so we did a little golf trip last fall, and we stayed on the property, which you've got to do. And they've got houses that you can choose from. You can also stay at the hotel. They have a hotel now there. And traditionally, they had one course, and it was called the Highlands course, which is a phenomenal golf course. Okay, I'm not downplaying the Highlands. The Highlands probably should be on my list, but it's not on my list. But the Highlands course, they kind of boast like the most dramatic finishing hole in the world. It's basically literally on the cliff's edge is where the green is. And the entire fairway is lining the cliff's edge as well. So you've got to keep your tee shot right. If it goes left, you're off the cliff. If you're messing around on a golf court, you can legitimately die. So it's that kind of elevation. It's those types of views on the 18th hole. And it's a fun golf course all around, but they just opened the Keep, and the Keep is literally perched at the very top of Lookout Mountain. And so you have 360 panoramic views all around you. Okay. And the golf course, the Keep is right now it is open. So we did a little preview round. All right. And so essentially, the golf course, like the fairways and the greens and the sand, good to go. Very playable. Just the rough, they're starting to seed the rough and they're going to grow out this nice tall fescue grass. So it's going to be very linksy. It's going to be like a link style course at the top of the mountain in Tennessee or Georgia, I should say. But I mean, this course, it is probably one of my favorite golf courses I've ever played in my life. I mean, I think the views definitely make it number one, but I think just the golf course itself is just phenomenal. The greens are impeccable. The bent grass greens. It's walking only. So that adds another element of like just kind of your traditional golf back in the day. You're not like riding around in a golf cart, which don't get me wrong, love riding around in golf carts. But, you got that walking feel, you walk with a caddy and, it's just, I don't know, you just feel like it's just a classy establishment. I think the dramatic cliff views and just like, just the vibe there is just insane. So highly would recommend if you're going to do a golf trip and you're considering Lookout Mountain, Macklemore Resort is got to be on the top of your list. Okay. Again, we did it last fall. And guess what? This fall, we're going to run it back again. All right. Because last fall, we did a little 2v2. We did East versus West. So we had some friends come in that are from the West Coast. And my buddy from Atlanta, we were the representatives for the East Coast. And we did a little 2v2 match. And we're going to start to do a little annual format every year with this Ryder Cup style. So we wanted to kind of try out year one. We wanted to try out Macklemore. And I did not play very well on this course, okay, the Keep. But this was the last course that we played, okay? So we ended up playing 72 holes that weekend. And the entire match came down to the final hole, okay? So we were up by one on the whole thing. Out of 71 holes, we were up by one hole, essentially. And it was really up to me at this point in time because my buddy Fritz, he was lost off the tee. And it was getting dark, okay? So it was getting dark. The sun was setting. I hit an absolute bomb off the tee. I was feeling pretty good. And our two opponents, they were kind of spraying it off the tee as well. My second shot, let's see, where did my second shot go? I could barely see it. So I don't even know where it landed, but it ended up somewhere in the back of the green. So I kind of overshot it a little bit. It was hard to judge, but I was on the green in two. Feeling pretty good, 2-putt for a par, no problem. And I figured, hey, my playing opponents, they were out of the hole, but actually they weren't. Randomly, my buddy escaped from the trees and he had a putt for bogey, which he made. So now I had to make my par putt. So my first putt, I lagged it down there, which I thought I lagged it down there, but the greens were like, I swear they were rolling at like a 12. And so my ball rolled by like 4.5 feet. And my putting that day was atrocious. I could not make anything. And it was infuriating me because usually my putter is one of my strengths. My putter Goldie. Okay. And so my buddy makes his bogey putt. That putt was for par. So my buddy made a par. Somehow, some way, made a par. And I think it was because he was popping. It must have been because he was popping on that hole. So I think he made a bogey for a 4. So now I had to make my par putt in order to push that hole and win the entire match because we were up by 1. And it was wild because, again, the sun was setting, final hole of the 72 match. All of the golf pros had come out of, they have like a little makeshift pro shop right now because they haven't built the pro shop yet up there. So, but all the golf pros, we were the last players on the entire course. So all of the pros had come out of the golf shop and they were kind of checking out the scene. We had like literally like an audience there. And of course, I'd missed every single putt that day. My hands were sweating. Okay. I was like, my knees were knocking a little bit, but I drained the 4.5 footer for par, won the 72 hole match. It was pretty epic. And I learned that we were actually the first group ever to play the Highlands course and the Keep in a single day. No one had done that before. Okay. So anyways, we take great pride in that. No one can take that away from us. We made history. And again, the Keep, I'm telling you right now, it's one of those courses that it's kind of getting on the radar now because Macklemore's now out in the mainstream. It seems like they're paying every single social media influence out there to advertise their course. They did not give me a dime, by the way. But this course just the resort in general, it's just amazing. Not only do you have the golf courses, but you've got a little like 6-hole par 3 course that you can play around with amazing views of the valley from atop the mountain, amazing restaurant right there that again has awesome views. And then the resort there, which I haven't checked out the resort yet because we ended up staying in a house, but all in our golf trip, just FYI, because let's talk about this is a retirement planning podcast, by the way, but our entire golf trip was like $1,500. And that included 5 rounds of golf and 3 nights staying in a home. Okay. So it's just kind of put that in perspective. You compare that to some other golf trips out there, great value as of right now, but I'm telling you, it's going to continue to get on the map. So I try to get in there as early as possible. And you've got to play both the Highlands course and the Keep. All right, let's transition back to my home state of Virginia. My home state of Virginia, I'm going to throw this one in there. Kings Mill, the river course. Now, Kings Mill, former PGA Tour stop right on the James River. I think actually the LPGA might still play there, but it's a must play. Yeah, I wouldn't really no other way to slice it. I mean, they've got 3 courses, and of course the river course. I mean, you're going to do a stay and play package if you go there. So you're going to play the river and you're going to play the other 2 as well. But it's just a scenic stretch of holes at the very end, right on the James River, 16, 17, 18, and just highly would recommend. Just old school course, quality course, like no BS, just it's right in front of you. And it's one of those things that you've got to do. You've got to play Kings Mill. Nothing else really to say about that one. It has been a long time since I played that round. I could not find my scorecard. I have no idea what I shot there, but I just remember great experience overall. And the course is just, it did not disappoint, is all I got to say. All right, next bucket list course. I've got to talk about this one. I'm wearing the golf polo. You know where I'm going with this one, and that is the home of the Players Championship, TPC Sawgrass in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. Listen, living in Jacksonville for 10 years, I had to play TPC at least once. It was always insanely expensive, so I kind of had to wait for my opportunity. That's usually me. I'm like a value play. I don't like to overpay for things, and certainly not for golf rounds. And so this one, I actually joined Dyes Valley, which is the sister course of TPC Sawgrass. So you've got the stadium course, which is the one I'm talking about. And then you have Dyes Valley, which is the sister course. And for a while, they were doing this really great deal where there was no initiation fee and you could just pay an annual rate. I think it was like $4,000 per year, which probably sounds like a lot. But if you're playing a lot of golf at the time, this was pre-kids, I was playing a good bit of golf. And my office was right next door to TPC Sawgrass way back in the day. So I joined Dyes Valley, and one of the perks was after the Players Championship, they offered up the ability to play the stadium course for $75. Okay, which of course I took that opportunity, and I brought out a foursome. We all paid $75. And it's one of those courses, you're going to overpay unless you can find a way to get in there somehow. You've got, a member at Dyes Valley, member at the stadium course. But I was looking at the prices now. And at the time when I lived there and I was looking at prices, it was like $350, $400 for a round, which even then seemed really, really steep. But now the prices are $750 a player. And that does not include caddy fees. So it's one of those things. It's like, oof, to play that course, you're going to overpay significantly, and the course is going to eat your lunch. Okay. It is a very difficult course. Again, we played it right after the Players Championship in 2017, and the rough was grown out. They weren't messing around. They continued to keep the course hard. I think I hacked it around the first 9. Okay. The first 9, let's see, I pulled my scorecard out here. I actually shot an 89. So I actually broke 90, but I went out in 48, not very good, but I came in 41. And it was a brutal test coming in because you go out in fairly straightforward holes, actually. In the back 9, I was feeling it. I was on fire. I was 1 over on the back 9 going into 16, which is a par 5. And 16, if you know TPC Sawgrass, you hit your tee shot, you walk up there, And then depending on how far you hit your tee shot, your next shot, or definitely your third shot, you're going to start to see glimpses of the Island Green, the most famous hole in the world. Okay. The Island Green, which is the 17th at TPC Sawgrass. And so I'm sitting there, one over par in the back nine, feeling pretty good. But then I start thinking about the 17th hole in my mind, and I start, my palms get sweaty. And so I made a bad bogey on 16. So now I'm 2 over on the back. And then I'm standing on the tee on 17. I had literally been dreaming about this, not only all day, but all like my entire life, ever since I've been into golf. Like TPC Sawgrass, of course, I've always wanted to play. And on 17, I had a pitching wedge in my hand. I think it was playing like something in the 130, 135. So a pretty good number for me with the pitching wedge. Chunked it in the water. Not happy about that. And of course, I didn't want to go to the drop area. I didn't want to go to the drop area and hit a little like 70-yard shot. I decided to hit another one from the tee. And I'm like, all right, this one's got to be good. And I hit it awful. It probably should have gone in the water. I hit it thin. It was definitely going over the green, but it ended up sitting and nestling into a little walking path behind the green on the back left. So I was very lucky there, but that was my third shot, and I ended up getting up and down for a double bogey. So I was pretty happy about a double bogey coming off of 17, coming from after hitting in the water. So now now I'm 4 over. Okay, after being 1 over going into 16, now I was 4 over going into the 18th hole. And 18th hole, the tee shot is just stunning. I mean, you've got the clubhouse in the back, which is like a mega mansion from Spain. I mean, it's just a beautiful looking clubhouse. And you've got to hit this, like the textbook shot is you've got to hit this sweeping draw off the tee. If you're a righty, if you're a lefty, of course, it's a sweep, it's a hard cut. So I was like, I got to play the shot here. So I took out my driver, hit what I was trying to hit was a sweeping draw. Instead, it was a straight up pull hook. So I went into the water on 18 and so dropped my second ball, hit my third one. I ended up just saying, screw it. I'm going to go as close as I can to the green. I took on my hybrid. I was like, I'm not going to lay up with an iron. I went with my hybrid and absolutely hit a beauty on my third shot. It just landed just short of the green, got up and down for a bogey. So it was a phenomenal bogey to finish off. But nonetheless, 41 coming in. I wasn't super happy about that, especially being 1 over par going into 16. But either way, TPC Sawgrass, you've got to do it. You've just got to find a way. Even if you're going to pay $750, this is what you're planning for retirement for. Okay, to do some of these splurging type of travel, deal. And if you're a big golfer, this has got to be on your list. And there's a bunch of courses in the Jacksonville area, the Ponte Vedra area. And so, offline, I'll give you some of my recommendations as well. But that one has got to be on the list. And of course, I've got to give an honorable mention to Dyes Valley because, like I said, I joined there for a year. And I probably would have continued that, but they ended up moving my office away from TPC Sawgrass. I think it was because of me playing a ton of golf. I wasn't doing that, but they ended up just moving our office. We were integrating with Everbank. The TI had bought Everbank, and so they wanted to integrate with the bank, and so they moved our office into one of those Everbank spaces. But I probably would have continued to re-up my membership to Dyes Valley because it is such a good course. I'm going to just say, like, hole for hole, it is every bit as good as the stadium course. It just doesn't have the same prestige as the stadium course. But if you go play the stadium, you've got to figure out a way to play Dyes Valley as well. Solid course. My next course on this list might be one of my favorite courses that I've ever played in my life, and that would be Old Head in Ireland. So we're going to go across the pond here to the beautiful country of Ireland. And this is just south of Cork. Okay, so Cork is on the southern tip of the island, and it's just south of Cork in a town called Kinsale. And so my wife and I, we went there in 2017 for our anniversary. And just so happened, one of my best buddies, the same buddy that was up in Connecticut that I mentioned that we visited and played Wittenberry Hills. And he was randomly planning a trip with his buddy, Jeff, who was playing hockey in, I think it was Korea or Japan. So his buddy was playing hockey in overseas. And so they decided to meet up in Ireland and they were going to do a golf trip. The same time, my wife and I, we were on our anniversary trip to Ireland. So, I talked to my wife. There are a few friends of mine that she would green light this for, and Turner is one of those guys. So she was like, of course, you could play one round with Matt and Jeff. That's fine. And so we did that. So we met up in Cork the night before, had a little reunion, and it was a great night. We ended up having, honestly, a little bit too much fun with some of the locals. Like, that's the cool part. If you've never been to Ireland, number one, you've got to go to Ireland. Like, I don't even care if you like golf or not. Ireland is still to this day my favorite country I've ever visited in my life. And I haven't been to a ton of countries, but I've been to a fair number of them. And Ireland is just, there's something about it. I mean, the beauty of it, but I think like the culture and the people are just, they're so down to earth. They're so cool. Like like my wife and I, we'd be posted up at a pub eating our fish and chips and just drinking a pint of Guinness. And like you would have these locals come over and just talk to you and just like super friendly. Like, I don't know about you, but that just doesn't happen in the US very much. Okay. So anyways, we're having way too much fun in the pubs the night before a round. And so much fun. In fact, this young little lad comes up to me out of nowhere. So like we were kind of interacting with this whole crew of Irish guys and gals, and they were loving us like we were American. They were having a blast with us. But this kid comes over to me and challenges me to a chugging contest, a pint chugging contest. And I'm like, can't really turn this young kid down. I was like, we've got to get this going. And we were going to chug a pint of Murphy's, not Guinness, by the way. If you are in Cork and you order a Guinness, you're getting thrown out of the pub. All right. And because I don't know if this is 100% true. I think Murphy's is brewed in Cork or very close to it, but Murphy's is their beer, not Guinness. Okay. But anyways, Murphy's, very solid beer. And I like Guinness personally. I like Murphy's as well. But chugging a pint of Murphy's against the local Irish lad, like I was a little nervous about it, but I was feeling pretty confident that night just because, we had a few libations before this. This kid was feeling really cocky, and like he had all of his buddies. We were out in the alley right outside of the pub, and like all of his friends were there. Me, my wife, my buddy Turner, and our other friend Dimon was there, and we were all like we were kind of like friendly banter, friendly trash talking. Well, my wife gets this on video. I ended up taking him down, and the look on this kid's face when I finished right before him, he was like, "What just happened?" Because I think he was feeling pretty confident because I was feeling a little. I was just, who is this American guy? Like, what does he know about chugging pints of Murphy's, which I don't know anything about until that night. But again, one of the funniest videos we like to reference here and there. And again, that was the night before a round at Old Head. So anyways, nonetheless, you can imagine how we were feeling the next day driving to the golf course. Not very good. But this place it is a spectacle. I can't even put it into words. I mean, you basically come in there and the course is on a peninsula that's jetting out into the Atlantic Ocean. So like literally every hole, you just have panoramic 360 views of the Atlantic Ocean. And the course is just amazing. And they've got these old like stone walls from back in probably the 1700s. It's just got so much character, classic links style course. It's got a lighthouse right there. That's sort of like the signature lighthouse. And it is one of the most beautiful pieces of land I've ever witnessed in my life. Like not even golf courses, like just pieces of land. And again, I think this is why we love Ireland so much, is because like we just love that type of like the cliffs with the ocean type of terrain. And it's just got all of that. And the golf course is like top notch. Like the way I would explain it, and this is the Irish people, they love to use this word when they describe things that are really great. They use the word class. They say, oh, it's class. And that is what it is. It is just a class establishment. So Ireland, if you're a golf lover, you've got to go across the pond and do a golf trip to Ireland and Scotland. Okay. And honestly, that's on my bucket list too. It's probably not in the cards anytime soon for me, but if you're planning for retirement and you're thinking about, hey, what are my bucket list trips? You've got to go over to Ireland and Scotland and play all the courses over there. Turnberry, Royal Portrush, which, we went to Portrush in our trip to Ireland, my wife and I, and probably my favorite city in all of Ireland was Portrush. The people were so cool. It was beautiful. So this is Northern Ireland. It is so beautiful. And like literally, I don't know if we just caught the weather perfectly, because a lot of people were asking us, did it rain every day? It really did not rain very much at all. We went in April of 2017. And the water was legit, like it looked like the Caribbean. Like when the sun was hitting it, it was like this green, this emerald green. It was beautiful. But Portrush, Royal Portrush, just a phenomenal course. They had the British Open there a few years ago when, what's his name, won it? The Irish lad, Shane Lowry. Shane Lowry won it. And it was a little sad because Rory, it was kind of that's like his home course is Royal Portrush. And, he was sort of the favorite. Everyone wanted Rory to win, but they still had an Irish guy win, but it was Shane Lowry. I thought that Open was amazing. But Royal Portrush, you got to play that. But yeah, it's so many courses in Ireland and Scotland, but you've got to add Old Head to the list. If you do an Ireland trip, you've got to add Old Head. It's just something special. And it's walking only, by the way. So get in shape and please take a caddy. If you do this, please take a caddy. So my buddy and I, Turner and I, we took a caddy, and his buddy Jeff, our buddy Jeff, decided to just do a push cart. And he was regretting that every step of the way. So definitely take a caddy, a real caddy, and enjoy. I mean, the Irish people, like I said, they're awesome. They're down to earth. They're a lot of fun. And like I said, we didn't play, our golf game was awful that day. I think probably partly because the night before. But literally every hole, we were like snapping photos and selfies and taking videos. It's that type of course. It's really hard to concentrate on the game of golf because you're just like caught up in how beautiful the piece of property is. All right, so that's at the bar. So the last category we're going to talk about is the private courses that you must find a way to play. And I'm going to kick it off with my new home club. I joined a golf club last October. I told my wife, if we move to Chattanooga, I am joining Black Creek Club. And so we did that last October. Every time I go there, it's like I've got to pinch myself, like, how did this even happen? Because like I said, I did not grow up in a country club. All right. So I grew up playing the local munis, the municipal courses, Oakmar, which was a par 3 in Fair Oaks. That's where I took my first lesson, Reston National. I mean, just these like fine little municipal courses. And I didn't really know the country club life until I started working at country clubs and golf clubs. I'm like, these are pretty nice. Like maybe one day I can do this. So I've got to pinch myself every time I step on the property. But listen, I work hard. And this was my reward to myself for busting my tail over the last 17 years in this business. Anyway, so Black Creek Club, it's, well, how do I even explain this place? I mean, it's in the foothills. It's in the valley of Lookout Mountain, Raccoon Mountain, and Etna Mountain. So just outside of Chattanooga. And it's not a country club feel. Okay. I think this is why I love it. It's like not this like snobby country club, like another golf course that's in this area. I'm not going to name its name, but it's not a country club feel. It's a golf club. And I think that's why they call it Black Creek Club. It's a golf course first. And it's a Seth Rayner inspired course, which if you're familiar with that, he's like the father of the template golf. And it's just like, it is littered with deep bunkers all over the place, template greens. It's got link style golf, meaning like there are multiple ways to play each hole in terms of you can run it up, you can hit it high, and there's tons of undulation on the greens. And it's just a beautiful piece of property. The front 9 kind of weaves through the neighborhood, and then the back 9, you go out and then you're sort of out in the mountain. And it's just peaceful and beautiful. And it's just a good golf course. Okay. Very tough. Every time I played it, I think I've logged maybe 5 rounds there. My low there is like an 88. So that just tells you, like I said, I'm not playing very good golf because I'm not playing very much right now, but it is a course that you must find a way to play. And they've got this signature hole, which is called the bullseye hole. It's a par 5. I think it's number 6. And essentially the approach shot is you're hitting over this mound of fescue grass in the back of behind the green, which you cannot see. It's so like the fescue grass hill is protecting the green. And you have to trust that the bullseye, which is a huge bullseye sign behind the green, is your aiming spot. And the green is like this massive stadium setting. So once you sort of go over this little grassy hill, it just opens up to this massive green. And it's a pretty cool hole. But that's their signature. But I'm not kidding. If you are a podcast follower and you are in the Chattanooga area, or if you want to come to the Chattanooga area, I will sponsor your round. Come play with me. Email me directly, kevin@imaginefinancialsecurity.com. We will play Black Creek. Unless there's like 50 of you that reach out, I'm telling you, anyone who reaches out, we will go out and play. It'll be on me 100%. Because again, especially if you're a loyal listener, if you've been following for a while, make sure to tell me your story a little bit. But again, if you are a golf lover and you want to play Black Creek, let me know. You will not be disappointed. It is a beautiful piece of property. But again, I've got to start off this private club list with Black Creek in Chattanooga. Now I want to go back to my hometown area, the DC area Congressional Country Club in Bethesda, Maryland. So better known as Congo. Many of you know this course because it's hosted, I don't know, maybe like 5 or 6 US Opens, including the 2011 US Open, where Rory McIlroy won his first major, okay, in 2011. My dad, my brother, and myself, we all went there that weekend. It was Father's Day weekend. And just an amazing test of golf. It's going to eat your lunch just like TPC Sawgrass, so don't expect to shoot low scores. But I played the course back in 2008, the summer after I graduated from college. I had a few months until I started my job at Northwestern Mutual in August of 2008. And I decided to do a little caddy job because my girlfriend at the time, her brother was a caddy at Congressional. And I was like, I would love to do that. Can he hook me up? And he did. And I was a caddy there for the summer, which if you know about Congressional, it's like probably one of the most prestigious courses in the DC area. So to become a caddy there, you've got to know somebody, which I was fortunate enough to know someone. So I got the gig as a caddy that summer, and I was like caddying for all these politicians and lobbyists in DC, all these big wigs. But such a cool experience to caddy there. But I was able to get out and play one off day. All right. I was able to play one off day. They kind of used their discretion in terms of letting caddies play because they know that they would abuse it and obviously tear up the course, and they want to limit their play there. So it is a very tough test of golf. It's a classic US Open course, grown out rough, very narrow fairways, but it's very traditional, but it's a beautiful piece of property, amazing conditions. I don't even want to look at my scorecard. I know for sure I did not break 90. But if you ever somehow get a chance to play Congressional, you've got to figure out a way to do that. So I had to end my list on probably my favorite golf course that I've ever played in my lifetime. I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to play this course again. Maybe one day I will. But this course is just outside of Baltimore, Maryland, Caves Valley Golf Club. Caves Valley. I'm telling you right now. Again, I am not the country club type, and it's not a course that I'd go out and join. I couldn't even afford it. But my managing partner, when I joined Northwestern Mutual, he was a member there. And just to kind of put this in perspective, Caves Valley must be your secondary club. It is not a primary golf club where you go every day and play 36 holes. It must be your secondary club. So you must have a membership at another country club, and then you must have an invite in order to apply to become a member at Caves Valley. And then even then, I think there's a wait list and there's a lot of vetting that goes along in terms of who they let in. So it limits the number of play, obviously. And the experience it's a stay and play type of environment. So you stay in these cabins on site, and there are not a ton of these cabins. So any given weekend when you go there are not going to be a lot of people on the golf course. Okay. And that's, I think, why the feel of this course is unlike anything I've ever experienced. Is like you just feel like a baller, for lack of a better term. And so you stay in this cabin on site. The dining, it's intimate. It's like the Ruth's Chris Caliber steakhouse type of thing. Again, my managing partner was a member when I joined Northwestern Mutual. And honestly, that was a big part of why it was hard for me to leave, because we had this annual golf trip we would do called the Rhino Cup, where we would do a Ryder Cup style event and do a 6v6 or an 8v8. And it's walking only, and you have to take a caddy. So it's walking only with caddies, and just the course condition. So I've played with a couple of people that have actually had the blessings to play Augusta National. And I kid you not, they both said Caves Valley, the conditions and the feel of the course, very similar to Augusta National. So I'm going to just kind of put that out there. But I think there's maybe one section of the course where one hole runs into another hole. So each hole, it's cut in these tree lines of the valley. Okay, whatever, I don't even know what range it is out there, but it's cut in the tree lines. And so there's only one hole where you can see another hole. So every single hole you're out there, you just feel like you're by yourself in that one hole, and that one hole is all you can see. And it just makes for a special experience. They hosted the 2021 BMW Championship where I think it was Patrick Cantlay and was it DeChambeau? Potentially had a little playoff, or Patrick Reed. I think it was DeChambeau, or no. Was it Cantlay and... No, I think it was DeChambeau. I think it was Cantlay and DeChambeau had a little showdown. That was Caves Valley. And we just had so many memorable rounds there, some epic battles, with my time at Northwestern Mutual. And I just think, I don't know, I think the course has a special place in my heart for many reasons. But I'm telling you right now, the feel of the golf course and the play and the conditions, the greens are just lightning fast. And it's like one of those things where you have to, like, the caddies are so important because they will tell you, hey, try to pitch it here, land it here, and the hole is like 40 yards to the left or right. You're like, how is that even possible? And they're like, just trust me. And you do that, and it literally ends up by the hole. So you need to have a caddy. Otherwise, you're just going to look like a fool. But again, people have compared it to like the Augusta National of the Northeast. And so I don't know if that's true. I've never played Augusta National. I've never even been to the Masters. So I can't really say that for sure. But it's got to be on my list. And I would say to this day, I haven't played it in a while, probably over 10 years. To this day, it is probably my favorite golf course I've ever played. And I think that's saying something. But that's my list. That is my top 20. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you think about my list. Let me know if there are any courses that you've played on there that you would agree with. And again, let me know for sure if there are some courses that you believe I should get out there and add to my bucket list. Because again, I don't think I'm going to be going on a ton of golf trips right now, just given the ages of my kids. And I do spend a lot of time in my business. So that's obviously a big factor as well. But over time, I want to continue to add to my bucket list, and I want to start tackling my bucket list golf trips, because you never know how long you're going to be playing good golf. So that's my list, everybody. Would love to hear what y'all think, and would love to hear what y'all are thinking in terms of budgeting for golf in retirement. Like, how much are you going to budget for? Okay. If you're a big golfer, or if your spouse is a big golfer, like, what are you going to incorporate? How are you going to incorporate golf as part of your annual budget for retirement plan? Because I think it needs to be like a dedicated line item, similar to housing or insurance or healthcare or other travel. Okay. You've got to be intentional with this. And we talk about purpose in retirement, and we need to think about purpose in retirement. And if golf is part of your purpose, you need to be intentional about spending intentional money on these things. I'm not saying spending frivolously, but you need to be sort of cognizant. Hey, this is going to cost a little bit of money. I don't have a lot of expensive things that I buy. Like, I don't drive a fancy car, drive a Honda. I don't overspend on my housing. Like, I believe I keep my expenses fairly low. Okay, we do have a nice lifestyle, and our kids go to nice schools, etc. But really, golf is my thing. Like, golf is my discretionary thing that I do. And so if you're planning for retirement or recently retired, you need to be intentional about and honest about what you want to spend on golf and retirement, and don't apologize for that. You've earned it. You've worked hard to get to this point. And I'd love to hear from you. What's the best course you've ever played? Or what's at the top of your bucket list? Okay. If part of your dream retirement is playing amazing golf courses without worrying about money, let's make sure you have a financial plan that allows for that. And we'd love to help you with that. We'd love to help you with your retirement planning journey. And if you like this episode, and if you're liking our content, make sure to leave that 5-star review on Spotify or Apple, wherever you're listening to podcasts, YouTube. It really helps feed the algorithm and allows us to reach and impact more people, which is what we're ultimately looking to do. And next week, we're going to make sure to touch on the winners and losers in the markets in the first quarter of 2025. I know we've had some volatility. We had Liberation Day. The markets sold off heavily the day after Liberation Day. And I think you might be a little surprised at some of the winners and losers after the first quarter of 2025. So until next time, you make sure to stay tuned on that one. Until next time, this is Kevin Lau signing off.